Okay, we can start now. They'll catch up, them stragglers.
We're ready to go.
I know you are. I'll get you out of here. I don't know about you guys, but I'm hungry.
Hello, how are you? Okay. Oh.
Hey, Rocky, if you were in control of this, you'd have this on the road by now, wouldn't you?
I would have had it on the road by now. This new president is out of control.
We're gonna have to give her a second year.
Sure, I was worried I was late.
Where'd you bring your ketchup?
That is assault.
Whatever.
Oh, just got always a pleasure when you walk up and see the press with their cameras outside.
I'm good. No problem with that, but okay.
She told you about like the first day working together already. First day.
No, sir. No.
Okay. I just want to be clear.
Oh, okay.
That was my way of trying to say.
They might put me in the camera, you know, the same camera has. Okay, I can't afford it.
Nothing true.
Well, that is true. I'm learning.
That's how you would have looked at what.
Right. I need to read through the text.
I'm like, yeah.
Right.
I like quotes.
I was taking it literally. I was like, I don't get it now that I know that it's close.
That's thematic.
Fair enough.
Jake, are we ready?
Yes,
We are? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. We are going to go ahead and get started with the public works section.
And this evening we have Mr. Janesi in the Operations Department to come forward and share an update of what's happening in their world.
Good evening. So I'd like to introduce all of our folks that are here tonight from our operations team. And hopefully I'll try to go over by department. So Dremel, manager of building services. I'll be covering for Todd tonight. His daughter has her first play. So I said I'll cover it. That way when Mr. sure we were asked the hard questions, you just can ask me directly.
So is this to notate that daughter is my granddaughter, and he made me come.
You get the next one.
Okay, thank you.
Pam Melcher, Director of Food Service. Jamie Snyder, Director of Safety, Security, and Risk Management. Jason Inman, Director of Technology Services, and John Chevalier, Director of Transportation. So with that, go ahead and let this slide transition to all the departments that are up there. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Bill. Talk about building services.
This one advanced. Good evening, my name is Bill Drummel, I'm the Manager of Building Services. Tonight I'm here to give you a brief overview of the Building Services Department. Slide one is a few faces and some tasks that some of the service building employees are doing. A variety of tasks, just day-to-day stuff we do. Second slide is Building Services Department structure. You see me at the top, and then under me is all construction projects. I oversee the skilled trades department as well as the contractors that do the day-to-day repairs for us. You look to the left, Jason Paulson, Supervisor of Building Services. Under him is the district-wide custodial staff that he coordinates, as well as Dave Paulson, who is the head of custodial pool, and then the custodial pool under Dave Paulson. If you look to your right is Angela Schwan. She's the manager of building services, and her responsibilities include accounting, payables, attendance, phone support, and last but not least, building rentals. Next slide. There we go. This is staff and some miscellaneous info. We have 88 custodians right now, 6 vacancies. We have 10 custodial pool positions and 4 vacancies. We have one male truck driver, 3 skilled trades, and support staff. And I mentioned them on the previous slide. Miscellaneous info, approximately 1 million square feet of facilities under roof.
3.1.
Oh, I'm sorry, what did I say? 1.3? Oh, okay. 3.1, thanks. Approximately 800 classrooms, millions of linear feet of piping, wiring and ductwork, over 555 acres of ground, and over 73 work orders were submitted last year. Next slide is the daily responsibilities of the custodial staff. Custodians clean and sanitize around 800 classrooms nightly. They maintain athletic fields, snow removal of the sidewalks and entryways. They do emergency cleanups. If we have a flood, they get the machines out and clean that up. They do the moving of teachers from room to room. They do the setup and tear down of the vents. And also, last but not least again, is positively interact with the students. Custodial pool, they're responsible for the snow plowing of the parking lots, grounds maintenance and mowing. They cover the custodians when they call off. Calling requests, everything that's moved from building to building, they take care of, like maintenance, the mail route, and the setup and tear down of events, sometimes for the city as well, and positively interact with the students. Responsibilities of the skilled trades. You see Dennis Dandino, he's the plumber, and some of the equipment he is responsible for underneath him. Water heaters, domestic pumps, all the restrooms, all the toilets, science labs. We have over 150 backflow preventers that he tests, irrigation systems as well. Chris Flanagan is the electrician, and some of the equipment he's responsible for are fire alarms, service equipment, lighting, parking lot, motors, exhaust fans, HVAC repairs, and life safety equipment. Scott Taylor is our HVAC specialist. He's new to us. He's recently replaced John Bloom, who retired after 44 years. So he has big shoes to fill, but some of the equipment that he's responsible for are the boilers, chillers, cooling towers, univents, temperature control, scheduling, and he also is working with custodial staff on a day-to-day basis, trying to train them and teach them about the HVAC and equipment in the building. All three gentlemen are on call 24/7, so if there's an emergency after hours, we're on it. They're out there trying to get the problem fixed before school starts. Next slide is projects. Some of the projects that we've completed in the last couple of years, commissary expansion, diesel technology building, ETI building, high school site improvements, renovations at the high school, which were pretty extensive, music addition, cafeteria, kitchen, main office, all the new hubs, painting and carpet. So we've touched a lot of the high school, renovation at the career center, renovation at the freshman division, that included some roof work as well as a new elevator. So we're excited about that. Future projects, Monger, the big one there that I'm most excited about is getting a new roof. We've been struggling with some roof leaks there for the past couple of years, and I'm really excited about getting a new roof on that building. LED lighting is another one, trying to make an impact on the energy costs. Data, we're doing some roof replacement there. HVAC upgrades is the big one there, where we're taking a 2-pipe system and turning it into a 4-pipe system. That will give us the ability to control the indoor air quality. Basically, we're able to heat and cool at the same time, so that'll definitely help there, as well as LED lighting again to try to lower our energy costs. Transportation, the fuel station, that is going in on the north side of the service building. That one will take the place of the underground storage tanks at the current facility. Elkhart High will be getting 2 chiller replacements. I believe cooling towers and motor controls. So we're looking forward to that. And last but not least, Westside Middle School will be getting some HVAC upgrades, and that would include changing out some univents and adding some VAV boxes. So we're all excited about this, and I thank you for your time. And I believe Tony is up next for energy, correct? All right.
So energy management, Todd would normally be here. As we said, he's got to play for his daughter, so I'll be happy to fill in. We always try to think of these 3 things. Think first about what we're doing. Act to make sure that we're managing the resources that we have. And it's as simple as turning off a light switch or a computer. Those all help when you look at them in the grand scheme of things. And then the idea is to save. And we're hoping to save money. And you'll see in the later slide roughly how much we've saved in the length of the program. So Todd normally performs a variety of functions. Most importantly, he gets out into the buildings and he checks them. He does what's called our building audits. He goes through and makes sure things are running when they're supposed to be off and they're not supposed to be on. He helps by scheduling the building systems to run. As a reminder, our building systems are scheduled to run when students are in the buildings. When students are not in the buildings, we do not run the systems. Unless it's a special event that we have all agreed we'll run for, which is typically either athletic events or music performances. They could be awards nights, things like that. But just when we just have the building unoccupied from students or without students, then we don't run the buildings. Todd also helps to address the problems that are related to building temperature, overall building temperature, and room temperatures. And he will go in and meet with the teachers. It's one of the reasons it's so important that he is in the position, being a former teacher, because he understands the teaching aspect, the classroom aspect. He analyzes the utility data and trends, so he goes through the bills every month. He looks at them and looks for things like variations in the bills. I'll give you, for instance, several years ago, we had a toilet that ran for the President's Day weekend at Bristol. And we did not know what caused the incredible increase. You would think 4 days of that with the toilet running. It was a very noticeable increase. We will trace it back. So he looks for those inconsistencies in the bills to try to determine what we have malfunctioning or misfunctioning to be able to repair those things. And he regularly talks with me. Administration he talks to me, but then we also meet monthly with our energy committee, which is Bill, Todd, myself, and Mr. Scott back. And we talk about energy trends and cost trends. And we usually, to be honest, we focus not only on the avoidance, but we really focus on what we spend, because that ultimately is what affects the bottom line. And then, as you can see, Todd communicates with the buildings and teams regarding the energy savings and helps them to understand where we're doing well and where we can improve. So this is our 2021 cost avoidance. We ended up with a total of $1,979,788. It's the highest total for a normal school year. And I say that because when we look at the next slide, you'll see we had $2.5 million in 2020. We all know that that was a year when we did not occupy our buildings for the entire year. And so it had an effect on our expenses. And so you can see from the life of the program, I thought it was really cool how Todd used life. Most of us that are older remember the cereal. That's what I did look at it and think of. But 2009 was only about 4 months, and it was just getting started. And you can see that essentially every year we have increased, with the exception of 20 to 21. But again, 20 was the year of the shutdown. So our total cost avoidance for the life of the program, as you can see, is almost $17 million, $16,665,000. And our cost avoidance in 2021 is equal to 35 first-year teaching positions. And when you take it all and add it together and then divide it, it's an average of 25 teaching positions per year that we've been able to save, because we're not spending this money on something that doesn't have the direct effect on the students. Future projects, LED lighting, Bill touched on it. LED lighting is the most reliable projects we can do for energy savings, because we can just say, okay, here's the amount of time we have the lights on. We replace it with a certain wattage of lamp with a much less, much smaller wattage of lamp, and it's really easy to do the calculations and see the savings. And at this time, as we continue to see an increase in electrical costs, they've been going up for quite some time now, electricity costs. The LED lighting is more and more important. So we really push to get those projects. And as you can see, we continue to do work on this campus. And Bill has the contractors working on a parking lot lighting upgrade behind the Career Center to go from the old metal halides to the LEDs. That, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Thompson.
Good evening. Good evening. Okay, so here is my amazing office staff and what their titles are. Dr. T was actually there that day to present us with the Golden Apple Award. Very exciting for the whole department. Here's an overview of all of our staff. We broke it down by secondary, elementary, allergy, commissary, and catering. These are the programs that are offered on a daily basis, as we have our after-school snack program, breakfast and lunch, the vended site, fresh fruit and vegetables, child and adult care food program, and catering. So we went back 3 years to see where we were with reimbursable meals. So if you look at the difference between the 1920 to the 2021, that's when we were on hybrid. So the numbers were a lot lower. We had up until December of this year So looking at those numbers, we should either be at the same level as 1920 or exceed that. So just a little bit of information, effective January 1st, meal reimbursement will increase by 25 cents for each breakfast and lunch. Over. Cut me off. Over 172,000 breakfasts and lunch were served during the mandatory shutdown in spring of 2020. Completed projects is the high school kitchen and cafeteria, the bistro, ETI and career center, and then Titan point of sale and back office. As you all know, all our students eat for free. And we're very proud to say that food service has a positive account balance. We're kidding. Due to the popularity of those that have been there and seen our pizza ovens at the high school and then ETI and Career Center, we have just recently purchased them for the 3 middle schools and freshman division. So you could cook from a frozen steak in less than 3 minutes.
Oh,
Great.
Oh, one of my
This
houses.
is 42
Yeah,
cents.
These are pro at the career center. So the 4 buildings that we have on CED and that's been on that for the past 4 years are coming to an end this year. We will reapply using April 1st numbers, and that's numbers of directors that we have in those schools. Can you explain that? What is that? So it's community eligibility. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we have to look at the directors. So directors, people that are on campus who, okay, they directly get certified with the state. And so you want to look, the only ones we can look at are the ones that are 50% or more. And so you're going to take that, say you have someone that's at 67%, then you use the multiplier of 1.6 to see where they fall. Okay. So say we have 5 schools that are at 100%, or maybe even over 100 with the multiplier. I'm going to look at grouping them because I want to put as many schools that work with that in Title I on this program. Being on this program, we get reimbursement for the free reimbursement for every student if they're at 100%.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, okay, with the great program, we'll look at it, have to have the numbers turned in by June.
And these are the only schools that qualify?
For the last 4 years.
Okay.
So this year, with the numbers I worked with, we could qualify 10, 11. Yeah, have 100%.
Really?
Yes. So, but of course, I'm gonna be careful because it does affect our Title I dollars on where these schools are ranked. I'm just saying anything about. So we gotta work together.
So within Title I, you have to rank order your schools based on their percentage of poverty. So the numbers that get reported through based on the October 1 count and the number of students that are free reduced lunch there vary from her direct certification numbers. Because if people haven't applied for free textbooks, and in many instances they don't because they're already getting free lunch through the program that the USDA is running now. So our pre-reduced lunch counts don't necessarily correspond to our true rate of poverty and our direct certifications because people haven't filled out the applications for free textbooks.
That needs to be reconciled.
So that's what we have to watch, is the difference between the free reduced lunch application or the free textbook applications and the free reduced lunch through direct certification, because a school might be here this year, but if their direct cert changes or they haven't filled out enough free textbook applications, they could fall in the rank order. And so then that means they would receive less money because they get less per pupil than a school higher rank, that's higher Title I funds than a higher ranked school. So if a school has been here and has been receiving this many supports and some interventionists and things like that, or coaches and supports, and then this change causes them to fall in rank order, then we would end up having to substantially cut services or provide supports to that school based on that 1 year fluctuation in what happens.
Yeah, and sometimes it can work the opposite way, where there's a Title I school that doesn't need as much money, but they rank high with me. Okay.
So I get a question.
Yep.
Okay, it says all students eat free. Is that all K through 12?
Yes.
Really? Okay. And how long's that been the case? Oh, that just this year?
Yes, because
okay. All right.
So I can tell you that their, SNA is really pushing for all students to always be free.
Okay.
I don't know if that will come about.
All right. And then the reimbursement's 25 cents per meal, basically.
Yes.
So what's it cost to actually produce a meal, a breakfast or a lunch?
All different.
Average?
Average would be for breakfast anywhere between $1 to $1.25. And for lunch, depending on using USDA, we're under 180, so anywhere from 150 a month.
Okay. And then your positive account balance, I think for years, I remember Karen Carter always pointed out that there was a negative balance in the food service. When did that correct itself?
3 months ago.
Well, congratulations. Good job.
Well, with the government paying and not the families, they're getting all the money.
Well,
Okay.
there are several factors. The fact that students eat free, and as Mr. Scott was saying from the back, it's COVID. It's a COVID consequence. So as a result of COVID, the federal government, USDA decided that all students would eat for free. Right now, it's just through the end of the school year.
Okay.
But it has helped us tremendously because as we're out working, and any of you have been out in the cafeterias, if you notice, kids will bring their lunches and then they will go get a meal just for one item or just for milk. And there's the part of us, we always talk about waste. The waste you see in the schools from students is very different than any waste that there might be from what we produce. But we want them to take the meals, we want them to eat the meals, but the fact of the matter is, they always eat meals.
Yeah.
But it has helped us tremendously. And if you notice, there's, right now, I think Pam listed 36 open positions. We've been as high as 60 this year. So that has helped us with our savings. And just a lot of hard work. I mean, everybody that's part of Elkhart Community Schools has helped to get the food service back in the positive.
So what did you say the total reimbursement was per meal? Is it 25 cents or is it?
No, that's the increase.
Okay.
Additional.
So then what will it bring it up to? Do you know?
I don't know the exact amount. I can tell you that it's around 457, around that area for lunch, and I believe it's in the high school service. I can give you that information.
I ate lunch with my grandson a month or so ago. The amount of waste that those students are throwing away is mind-boggling. You could feed an army just from buying it. That's if the Army would eat broccoli, of course, because that's mostly what was, but it was, any of the vegetables and stuff, they're not touching. I mean, they just toss it out. It's terrible, yeah. Especially when we have so many people in our community with food insecurities.
So I can tell you as of, this is the first, February 1st, it's the first Monday in February, we are going to offer first to serve in the elementary. That will help to cut that weight down. Now, unfortunately, USDA says they have to take a fruit or a vegetable. But we should see quite a bit of change there.
The restrictions on the menus are incredible. The amount of work, you can sit with these ladies while they actually put a menu together, daily, weekly, monthly. It's incredible the amount of work and effort just to balance the calories, the sodium, the trans fat. I mean, everything that goes, it's, because if one is off, it throws that whole menu off, and then they start over.
One is this and two is that, boy, running that in a lunch time.
Right.
Like, yeah, they want, they're like, no more. And throwing.
No salt or butter. Cauliflower crust, yeah.
But it's
Crazy. Yeah, there's a lot of work that goes in. So this is a very important slide to me. As you all know, we've been so short, and it's taken a village for us to be able to get out there and feed all our kids. So, great big thank you to all of you that help food service, cover shortages in buildings. Please accept our heartfelt gratitude because we could not have done it without everyone. Thank you. Oh, sorry. So next is Jason Inman, our Director of Technology.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Jason Inman, Director of Technology Services. Been here almost exactly 4 years. I love working. And since I've been here, we structured the department a bit. It's kind of flat and we're reported to the director. So that's kind of a snapshot of how we're structured now. We've got infrastructure, which is security, networking, server administration, tech supports like the desktop and classroom support, AV, which is Jake back here as well. And enterprise application, that's Substantina, Power School, financial systems like Lao, our HR system. And then within the past year and a half or so, we absorbed data and assessment, which has been a really nice thing because of all the intertwined projects that we have with them. And so here's an overview of our district. You know, the student population fluctuates in the 12,000 range. That's the employees we support, all the iPads, the Mac computers, Windows computers, lots of security cameras, and we work with Jamie Snyder extensively on that. The phone system, access points, network printers, that sort of thing. And the growing list of services. It seems like every time we turn around, there's something new that we offer. And I think it's Doug who said before that what we do touches just basically every aspect of the district. You know, we work with Pam and her team on Titan, which is the new food services system, Power School, on down the line. And then there's so many of these, I'm just going to kind of buzz through them just to give you an idea. This isn't even all of them. Obviously, testing. So now onto some data from our ticket system. In 2021, 20,881 tickets solved. Customer satisfaction rating is 99.3%. If we don't have good customer service, we need we're not gonna be successful. So it's really important to the department. We have a very supportive district here. People who work here always giving us good feedback, and we appreciate it, and we like to hear the bad stuff too, so we can improve. Average resolution time for our tickets is 27.7 hours. There's a breakdown on the right-hand side by month of our satisfaction ratings. We do follow up on the negative comments to see where we can improve. So day of the week, Mondays and Tuesdays are pretty busy here. I think for everybody, we get most of our tickets. And by hour, it's the mornings, of course, you know, when people come in, and we typically get hit the hardest with tickets. And our busiest time, pretty common sense would show you that at the start of the fall semester, get most of our tickets, and then around Christmas time, get a little bit of a break. And this is probably my favorite chart, because it shows how things changed after the pandemic. So that red line is 2019, the year prior to the pandemic, and we, you know, kind of had a certain number of tickets. That everything changed. In 2020, we had parents and students starting to call us, and so we had a problem to solve. We had lots of people with questions, a whole new paradigm. So we got a quote to have an outside company help us take our calls, and it was an exorbitant amount of money to do that. So we worked with the business office and got the support of Superintendent Kevin Scott to hire some temps. And so the temps help us answer the phones and handle the calls, and it's turned out to be fodder for full-time positions, because we've hired 5 of the temps that we've had as full-timers now, and that's what they're with us. So we want to keep that going. And the projects that we have in the queue, we have tons of projects all the time. But I thought I'd mention a few. We have a contract with Advanced Imaging, and they're a pretty well-known company in the area. They were acquired by Applied Imaging out of Grand Rapids. And so our contract expires in June. We're going out to bid this month, February, to talk to other companies who offer copy printer services, managed print services, and we see it as an opportunity to dictate more of what we want in terms of cost savings and service to the district. There are several companies in this area actually that offer this service, so we're talking to quite a few. The thing we have to consider though, we have linear printers and copiers, and if the company we work with isn't certified to work on those, that can be a problem. So we have a rubric we're working through with the business office and some other folks to evaluate the different groups that come in. Disaster recovery, we've made major progress. We talked to the board, I think maybe a year ago, about where we were at. Now we're in phase 2, where we're going to look at business continuity. Once something would happen here in the admin building, let's say, and we had to fail over to our DR site, then what do we do to keep people running and keep, you know, the HR, the business office, the schools going at our new site? So we're looking at some tabletop exercises that we're planning for that. And then probably my favorite project that we have, it's been a lot of work, is an emergency mass notification system called Hvac. We worked with Jamie Snyder on this grant. We got about just under $500,000 to put emergency mass notification systems in all the schools, and we're almost done implementing all those. If there's an active shooter, we can notify the entire district very quickly. We work with the Hvac Police Department, thanks to Jamie's connections. We've got a system going in there so that they would immediately be notified as well. And so now the bigger challenge is going to be training people on how to use the system. We do want to put one of the signs that has the speakers and information that we would broadcast here in this building somewhere, probably in the superintendent's office, so that that group can be in the know if something happens, because seconds matter when there's an emergency. And that is basically the main projects we have going on now. I would now like to introduce to Valier. About transportation.
Good evening. Thank you very much for allowing us to be here today. The young lady you have in front of you right there, her name is Jen Stay. She's one of my ducking drivers who's been doing this for, I think, a little over 22 years. This picture's been up all over the school corporation, but I personally pulled her over to the side today, and I said, this will represent where we are with transportation. She goes, absolutely. So we are so pulling forward. drivers. It's always going to be a national trend that we have, unfortunately, but we are doing the best we possibly can. We have approximately 121 drivers and helpers, 97 right now drivers, and 24 the helpers, hereabouts. We normally have about a cadre of about 10 people that are going to be subs. All 10 of those people are not subs, they are working for us full time, so we've got to manage as far as the daily intake of about 6,500 students we transport each and every day. We could use more drivers, but we are still getting them in. One of the aspects that we have here with our transportation department is we train our own drivers. We don't have to worry about piecemealing that out to anybody else. Take care of that, and feel really proud that when they're trained here, they're very good drivers for the corporation. As far as in the office area, there are 9 of us. This is myself, 2 assistant supervisors, 3 routers, trainers, dispatchers, and 1 secretary. During a normal day, with what we have going right now, trying to transport all the students, sometimes we have a large amount of people that will call in sick. We'll have, it'll be down to 2 people that will be in the office. So, and the rest of the other people besides, one of my supervisors and 1 of my secretaries, they don't have their, CDL. The rest of us do, so 7 of us of the 9 are out there driving as well too. My mechanics, we've got approximately about 170 buses. One head mechanic has been here since he got out of high school, just out of high school. I've got 3 other mechanics along with them. We still need 3 additional. We have done fantastic with our state inspections each and every year for the last 2.5 years I've been here. I'm extremely proud of my mechanics. They have worked well. We stay on top of our stuff. The amount of caring that you have for those equipment and realizing the importance as far as the safety of these children is second to none. I couldn't be more proud of them. They also take care of all the other vehicles within the school corporation. So if they're going to be pickup trucks, mowers, snow blowers, everything else that falls within the school corporation that is needed for each and every one of the schools. Right now, what we deal with and what we've been trying to do to sit there and stay afloat is we have to update our routes, trying to each and every day. The 3 routers that I do have now are fairly new. They have not been schooled, but they've been trained by one of my supervisors, and she's done a wonderful job getting them started and also being able to help with rerouting things as we see the needs, changes that we've had with the school corporation this year. We are still to this day changing routes. Whatever we can do to be more efficient, so we can be more on time. We realize as far as the frustration sometimes when we do have stuff come on, they go into that bus cold, they do the very best they can, and we try to get them there in the most timely way we possibly can. Camera technology on the buses, every one of the buses has got a camera. We do whatever we can to make sure that they're going to be kids are going to be safe, and at the same time, too, be with longer behaviors, so make sure that everything's going smooth on that bus. As far as the ECS tracks trials, what you've got there at the bottom picture, Jamie Snyder, head of safety management, he brought these over to me, and we're trying these out with my bus driver, see if this is going to work. With the vast expanse that we have, with all the buses that we have out there, and trying to plow all that, we work overtime, doing whatever we can to dump as much salt, sand, etc., to be able to make it this safe for areas for our drivers and the helpers as they walk out. So we're trying these out in a preliminary thought about them. If they're working just fantastic, so we're expanding that more with the drivers. Last but not least, the fuel island project. The current fuel depot that we have right now dates back to the early mid-'80s, showing us where this fuel island project is going to work out incredibly. It's above ground. It's going to be state of the art, and I think it's going to help us immensely as far as with energy and fuel. Last but not least, parent GPS technology is one of those things. We do have as many subs as we do. Try to go ahead and cover all the routes that we have, and blending. We are looking into this. Myself and Jason Inman are going to do what we can to get this in focus that,
John,
yes, sir.
last Friday we had an unusual amount of bus drivers call in. I want to congratulate you and Tony and your team for making sure all the kids got to school and got to school in a reasonable time without excessive amount of tardiness. So good job.
Thank you very much, I appreciate that. And to let you know, we have a very strong base that we have here in transportation, make no doubt about it. I think we buck the trend of what we have nationally in many, many respects. And I think that there's a core group, and I think it's getting stronger and stronger every single day. And to be able to keep this going, what we have, I've got great people to work with me every single day. So thank you guys for working.
A lot to do with the team leader. Be the leader, be the gang, and you're making a team feel like they're cohesive, and thank you.
I'm a tactician, I'll be out on the battlefield, but we're gonna do whatever we can, we're gonna make it work.
How many, buses did you say we had?
Approximately 170, that was easy before Chevalier, that was, started back a long time ago. We are slowly beginning to, sorry. There was a lot of buses, our routes were so much bigger and so much longer. We are slowly beginning, it's really hard to get rid of, when we get new buses, we trade in the exact same amount. We tried to sit there, and we were able to convince them, take 2 extra buses that we knew that we're gonna be transitioning out. We do fantastic work on those buses, keep them going for as long as possible, but we are looking to try to streamline things as much as we can. Trying to sell buses outright right now would be very impossible. They're just flooded.
Well, back, I want to say 2014 or something like that, we tried to get the fleet down to like less than 100, I think, wasn't it, Kevin?
Well, 2 different things. One was the number of routes, regular routes, and I think that's what you're referring to, that 100 number. You remember when, Henry Lohmeyer was the director, and we just,
Kevin, can you come up to the microphone so the people online can hear?
and we did just, approve the strategic plan that included going to 1 high school. And Henry at that time was saying, we're gonna need more buses. So if you recall, and I showed this on one of my budget slides, is that about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we bought, instead of 12 buses like we normally would, we bought 20. And so what, John's been doing is looking at, the age of the buses and the number of miles and so forth, and trying to get rid of the oldest. And also this year, we didn't buy 13 yellow buses. Remember, we bought some activity buses rather than all yellow buses. But he traded in a like number of yellow buses. We shrank the fleet a little bit this year. And as we got into the reality of delivering 1 high school and how many routes were needed and consolidation of routes, that has changed our thinking from where it was 4 or 5 years ago.
What do we think the ideal number will be? It'll settle in at?
We are still, I appreciate that, we are still, we're blending, we're becoming more streamlined right now. We did everything we could to satisfy as much as we possibly could, not knowing exactly where we're gonna be. This is a transition year for us, for in all aspects. This is gonna be one that I think that, and I'm this would be speculation on my part. I am thinking like about 135, 140.
Okay.
Would probably be good, somewhere in that area.
Sure.
I know that may sound like a lot more, but it's not, because invariably you're gonna have buses go down. And, when they do, we just wanna get them pre-tripped, and we have buses that are pre-tripped and ready to go, in addition to the ones that are supposed to be going, and if they shouldn't start for some reason, cold or whatever, we have those bus drivers behind us with this model. Try not to have any interruption in the route.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm gonna jump in only because, when Transpar was here, Henry Lohmeyer was our director. You're gonna bring it home. It's gonna be brief.
Well, you know, like, I do this stuff because I don't get to answer all my questions about how you do that thing, so.
I've been watching the clock so you can't ask his questions.
Right.
So anyway, Henry Lohmeyer suggested that we have a spare ratio between 30 and 35%. That was something that was standard with Transpar. And the best way, and John alluded to it, but the best way I can describe why we need that many buses is when we come out of the bitter cold, especially when we had the Arctic polar vortex a few years ago, and then last week, we will go to start up the buses, and we may have 20 to 30 that won't start. So that's when we need to have 20 to 30 to do, as Mr. Enfield said, make sure we get them to school. So it's unusual, but we always have buses down. It sounds unusual, but we always have buses down. They're being worked on. We're always trying to do our preventive maintenance. So that's why the spare ratio is higher. But Mr. Chevalier is correct. We'd like to be close to that 140 number. Henry had suggested that we needed between 60 and 70 buses for the one high school. Right now, we have 49. Now, keep in mind, we had to go to the 2-mile walk zone. And the biggest reason we had to go to the 2-mile walk zone, we don't have the drivers. We have the drivers, we can continue to look at more routes. But we barely have enough drivers to do what we do now. So, anyway, Mr. Snyder.
Without further ado, Jamie Snyder.
Woo-hoo, finally.
Yeah.
I'm Jamie Snyder. I'm the Director of Safety, Security, and Risk Management, also known as the longest title in Elkhart Community Schools. I have a team. One thing we've changed since I've come on board is that we used to have paraprofessionals, and that was pretty much it. We didn't really have any security personnel. So one thing we did is we took those paraprofessionals that were basically manning the kiosks, watching cameras, gave them some additional responsibilities, and changed them to security ones. Below the security ones, you can kind of see what they do. We have 3 at the high school, so 1 in the main building, 1 at ETI, and 1 over the North Annex. The one that's over the North Annex kind of oversees all of it and kind of reports things that he sees, and also is good at the cameras and testing them to see where we have deficiencies, if we need to adjust one or something along those lines. Brand new, I believe just recently, within the last 2 years, we added security 2. You can kind of see a little bit about what they do at the high school and the freshman division. So like I said, we have 6 at the high school and 3 at the freshman division. Then we added 1 at the Pride Academy out at Bristol Elementary. Out of those 6, most of them spend their day in the main building. However, we do have 1 or 2 that float over to the Career Center to manage the Elkhart Academy and also check in on public health and safety. For all those students, at this point in time, as of today, we have 2 school resource officers. We have SRO Bobby Presswood, who's over at Elkhart High School, and then Jason Tripp just recently joined us back from being in the patrol division, and he is overseeing the freshman division. On a daily average, we have about 8 openings for off-duty police officers who work in our buildings. So when they're not working shift, we ask them to come in uniform in a marked car and kind of be part of what we're doing in the schools, working with the SROs and the security people. Most days we have about 5 to show up, and then we have 3 vacancies. And you guys all know we do a lot of different evening programming here at Elkhart Community Schools, and a lot of times my team is tasked with trying to fill those positions. And if we're not able to fill those, we do ask the Elkhart City Police Department to try to help fill those. And on average, between my team and the Elkhart City Police Department, we have about 2 to 4 unfilled positions a night. These are just some additional tasks that my team do that I don't think a lot of people think about. Is we are responsible for traffic control during drop-off and pickup at the high school and freshman division. We also get outsourced to middle schools and elementary schools when they're having issues to kind of help out or come up with game plans on how to make it more efficient. We're asked to work a lot of extra security at extracurricular events, so any kind of home football or basketball game. If you're a basketball fan, we have the Elkhart Sectional coming up, so we'll be providing security for that. We also host semi-state for boys basketball this year, so we'll be hosting or helping with that as well. We work a lot with the city on the crossing guards and trying to get those positions filled. I'm not going to read them all for you. I'll give the ones I think that are most pertinent. School zone, we work with the city engineer to monitor the school zone and their functioning. Basically, they set all that up along with the crossing guards. We just provide them with locations and times, and then they set all that stuff up. If there's something malfunctioning, it's brought to our attention, and we basically get that to the city, and they take care of it. We also track all the required emergency drills that each building is supposed to do. So each school has to do at least 1 fire drill a month and 1, man-made incident a semester. We're responsible for recording those to the state, so basically we make sure they're staying on top of those and meeting their requirements. And we also investigate any kind of disturbances or anything that's needed within Elkhart Community Schools where they ask us for help. One part of my job I unfortunately don't get to do as much as I would like to with is the risk management. I work with Tony and some other people as far as our insurance provider on gathering information we have, the incidences, I try to front load it for them, I try to gather the footage, if it's caught on camera, I take photos of the area that needs to be taken. I also take statements from people if we need to take those statements, and then I have all that information ready for the adjuster to kind of speed the process of the claim up if we need to. I mean, in that risk management, if we find deficiencies in our property or something that needs to be repaired, I kind of oversee with those journalists to make sure that's getting fixed in a timely manner. And we provide educational opportunities too with our insurance provider. I'll work with them directly. If we have a lot of slips and trips or we have a lot of something happening at one point in time, we have the opportunity to do some training. We will set up a training basically for that or with that in mind so that the staff can get a little education on it. Some of the completed security projects we've done, we added 3. When I started, the state of Indiana requires that you have 1 school safety specialist, I think in a district. I didn't think that was good enough. We've actually been pretty successful at adding 1 school safety specialist to every building. With changing staff, sometimes that becomes a little bit more difficult, but each year we're able to say that we have 1 person in training or somebody who is a certified school safety specialist in every building. We also added 3 more advanced CPI instructors this year, so we can teach de-escalation techniques and advanced therapeutic holds when needed. We upgraded the drill manager program, and what that means is before, when somebody would complete a drill, they would just enter it into a Google Doc, and basically it would just sit in a Google Doc until we were able to check it. With working in IT and with our Raptor program, we were able to find out that they could actually do some of that for us. So now with the new system, basically we get a notification that somebody's not doing their fire drill or they're not doing their emergency drill. We'll get a notification saying, hey, this school's falling a little bit behind, so we can make that contact to make sure they're getting it done. We constantly are adding cameras and alarms and different things along those. And then something small, we streamline the process with the city police department for evidence collecting if it's necessary. It used to be a painstaking process of zip drives and everything like that. Now we have a good relationship with them that I just take care of it for them and get it entered into the evidence, or get it to them to be entered into evidence. Some of the things we're going to continue to work on, we're going to continue to add cameras. I'd like to get more. The Hvac tracks, which Johnson already mentioned, not only do we give it to transportation, but we also give it to some other drivers. You don't realize how painstaking that is because you can't just give them regular Hvac tracks. They have to be able to be worn while driving a vehicle and meet DOT requirements and all that kind of stuff. So we had to kind of research that a little bit. I'm doing some extensive research on bait detectors for our secondary buildings right now. I'm trying to find out which one's best and how much that's going to cost. We're continuing to work with single wire and the project with the IT with the hopes that it'll be done sooner than later so we can get it set up. And then we can continue to make improvements on our emergency preparedness plan, our district emergency preparedness plan. And one of the things that we include that is reunification drills. We used to do reunification drills at least once or twice a year. The pandemic hit, so we kind of had to stop doing that. Hopefully, once everything settles down, we'll be able to initiate those.
So I want to thank all of the folks that you see up here. They are the backbone of operations, along with all of their folks. And this is a picture from the polar vortex. This is an example of how these folks work together. It was minus 49 wind chill. We had coolers and freezers, you can see them in the background, that sit outside where their units were actually shutting down. So we had to go and empty them and move the product around. And from every department's represented. They come together whenever we have an issue, work together. It's seamless. And this was a photo just to say, yeah, it's cold out here, but we're a team, and that's operations work. So I think we left Kelly 3 minutes for questions.
Okay.
Or anyone else.
Well, anyone else,
But in
yeah.
quickly.
Yeah, right. The LED lights. So what's the lifespan on each one of those?
You mean hours of,
Yeah, like,
they're, I'm not exactly sure if it's different on each one, but usually they'll last 10 years. Yeah.
do you get it from a company involved, item, or have you outsourced in other places?
We usually buy, like, for instance, if we're doing a project like, Clear Sweater, what we talked about, we'll buy it by a pallet.
Okay.
And it'll sit there, and when our electrician, we have access to a bucket truck now, which we didn't before, when he has time, he goes up and changes them out. So might be 6 months, but eventually he'll get to them. If he gets backed up, then we call a contractor to come in and finish them.
Okay.
Yep.
Jamie, what's the safety specialist in the school? How did you discern?
School safety specialist is basically, they have to do a 2-day training, in Indianapolis or online with the pandemic. And it's basically different things for school safety related. So you'll do like active shooter and what needs to be done in an active shooter type situation. You will talk about de-escalation techniques. You'll talk about mental health awareness and do these classes. And sometimes they have tests that are included with those classes. After you do the 2-day class, then basically you're back in school and you kind of have homework to do. And once the homework's done, you go back for another day in the spring and kind of finish it up. Once you do that, you're kind of given the school safety specialist based on the categories that you meet or the training that you meet. And then you're required to do 16 hours of continuing education every year. I'm trying to get all my security personnel to be school safety specialists so they can help with the building administrators to do that. But I'd also like to get to a point where it's all building administrators or principals within those buildings are school safety specialists as well.
And we're limited, are we still limited to 5 a year?
I can do
The
5 a
pandemic
year.
shut it down, it was all online, but normally we can send 5 a year from the school corporation. So Jamie and I are both school specialists. We have to do
Every year
advanced.
5, and then they just have to keep up their
Yeah,
safety hours.
yeah.
You can just
You can only do 5 in the first class, and once we're in, then the advanced training, which is either locally, for instance, Penn hosts a lot of them.
Okay.
And, Jermaine, the tall cop, he comes in and talks about drugs. There's games. I mean, so there's all kinds of different, they're day long, and we can do those online, or we can actually attend those.
Do we have 2 or more defibrillators in each building?
Depends on the size of the building. Most of your elementary schools probably have a defibrillator in them, and then like your bigger buildings, if they're spread out a little bit more, we try to have 2 in each one of those. John McClure, the head nurse, actually oversees the defibrillators and getting them added to the building as needed, and also the maintenance to make sure everything is not expired on them.
Okay, and with the upcoming sporting events at Northside, do we have one like right there on the floor?
There is one just inside the hallway, I believe, at Northside Gym.
Okay, thank you.
So, with custodial school, is that your split shift? Is that what you refer to?
No, that's, 10 positions that cover for the absenteeism of the custodian. So if we have, they'll go in the morning, real quick, empty trash, clean up as much as they can. If the custodian wasn't able to make it,
And our 3 trades actually are contracted to us, or are they union workers that just work for us?
I'm sorry, say that one more time.
The trade specialists, the 3.
No, there are employees.
There are, okay, and are they union or are they?
They were union, they're all trained in the union.
Okay,
They have the ability to keep their union card going if they want to. Some of them do, some of them don't.
okay.
I think, I know Chris keeps his, electrician keeps his card going. Scott, he came from another school district, so he wasn't union.
But they're not union with us.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, it's not union with us,
Okay,
I'm sorry.
but they can keep it open.
They can keep their,
And then our filtration system, we are stocked with filters, for that, so we don't even need to worry about that, for the sanitation roof filters, for the, yeah.
purifiers, yeah, we
Yeah.
just received, enough filters for everybody that's in the corporation.
Okay.
Last week, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're out in the buildings, you'll notice, you'll start to see the little filter lights are blinking. 'cause they're right
Yeah,
at that
mine
point.
just did this
Yeah.
one, too, that's
Custodian,
right. Yeah.
custodian, put a work order in, we should write out to the man.
So Kelly, are the ones in your salon the same size as that one over there?
Mine are efficient.
Jamie, I have 2 questions. Can you tell me what is a yak track and what is the single wire or single wire, whatever?
Single wire is what Jason even touched on as far as the one push notification.
Oh.
And I think a good way I've described it to other people is like, heaven forbid, let's say that the BP gas station gets robbed, and the suspect is last seen fleeing on foot towards the west. What it used to be was the Elkhart City Dispatch would contact Career Center or contact the high school, but they wouldn't contact Career Center, TTI, the high school, and honestly probably the administration building in Woodland, because we need to put all of those on what we would call a secure or a lockout type situation. With this system, basically when Elkhart City makes that notification to, let's say, the administration building first, they're able to notify all the other schools on this campus or that need to be notified of an event with the push of a button.
How do they receive the notification?
That would be an IT thing.
So there's a system with, you have scanned messages that could be someone's voice, and there's also these signs that people call clocks, that they haven't been trained yet on them. But there's speakers that are very loud, and make an output sound, and so that would notify them.
We try to put those in high traffic areas because, I mean, we've all spent time in cafeterias, and kids aren't necessarily quiet in cafeterias at the gym or any place, in the hallways, there's congregating areas. We try to put them in those places, so they also have very bright LED lights. So if we're in a passing period or there's gym class or cafeteria, that's gonna get their attention, and a message that's pre-recorded will go across there, and scroll across there until the kids look. And the Elkhart Police Department, the dispatch has one.
So what is the Hvac type?
I used to wear them when I was in law enforcement. Basically, you put them on the bottom of your boot in the wintertime to stop you from slipping on ice.
Oh,
Hvac is, I think, an actual brand name of them, but we used to wear them, they do help you stop slipping on ice, and we had a couple winters ago, we had some slips and trips on ice and things like that. We started investigating, okay, what can we do to maybe stop this from happening? So we ordered, I think, like 50 of them, maybe, or 20 of them, started giving them to different drivers, and kind of getting reviews, okay, what do you guys think? And now we're getting positive reviews, now we kind of go back and say, okay, how do we order these? Because they're specific by shoe size, we have to make sure we get the right ones that can be worn inside the bus, their DOT requirements, and also so they're not tearing up the buses. So there's just a little bit more work that needs to go into it before we can get them all ordered.
you have some?
I sure do.
Maybe since you're in the hot seat, what is the reunification drill?
Okay, so let's say we have a situation where we had an incident at a school, and we can't necessarily stay at that school. We now have to evacuate that school. We have to take the kids to another site. So we're in a, basically, let's say that Woodland Elementary has an issue, and we're not able to have people at Woodland Elementary because now law enforcement, fire personnel, and everybody else is taking over that. We now get the kids out of the building, we get them to a staging point. When we get them to that staging point, we don't want anybody near that building. We don't want parents coming to that building and flooding it while the first responders are trying to do what they need to do. So we have alternate sites set up within the community or within the district that we will get on buses. So all I have to do is call transportation and say, hey, Woodland's been evacuated. Can you get some buses to the staging site? Those buses will pick those kids up, all the kids and all the staff and everything, and take them to one of our predetermined sites. We have a reunification trailer with everything on it that we would need. We basically set up a site for them so that we contact parents. Parents can go through a process of being basically reunified with their children, and then released from there.
And John, are we at all at any point, I know that our philosophy about bus replacement has always been because we have these buses, we have people that know how to work on these buses, we have parts that we can replace with these same buses, so we keep getting the same buses. But are we at all looking at trends for fuel savings down the road with vehicles that would not take traditional fuel as such?
We had an electric vehicle, electric bus come over to the demo. It was in its infancy. They wanted to bring it over. Basically, the things that we have, there's so many things it would come result to. You would go to all these, you have to have all these stations as far as electrical stations that would have to all be integrated into that. I want to see a little more time, how these things shake out. That would be the best thing we do. And I want to see as far as businesses, I want to see what it's capable of. I know this technology is going to continue to go up. And I don't want to get down to infancy. I really want to see how far it goes. And then I'll be going to have a look at it. Right, because I want to try to take care of this one avenue and I'll bring this cable of ours down a little bit. And then once we have that, then I'd have to give us enough time to get to go ahead and make some changes.
Energy savings, we are mostly electric in Elkhart, or are we mostly gas? What are we? Both. What's the percentage? Do we know?
Yeah, well, I can't tell you the exact percentage,
That's
but
okay,
I can tell you we have, all of our boilers are gas, all of our chillers are electric.
Okay.
All of our water heaters are gas. We do have electric heaters in the buildings, most of it is gas fired though. So the largest cost is actually electric because electric has gone up in cost. They've increased it. I think Todd showed you a while back, it was like 7 cents a kilowatt, now it's like 14. So that's a huge increase. Natural gas is stabilized, and Mr. Scott could speak to that we can buy gas for gas futures, we're able to purchase ahead of time and get it at a much lower cost. So we're able to see a much lower cost in our natural gas than we are in our electricity. Unfortunately, our chillers are high demand for electricity. The best way I can describe it is one chiller is roughly 4 houses.
So just from experience of using solar panels, and taking my electricity bill down to $1 now, which was pretty high. I didn't know if we've explored in energy savings with all the flat roofs and everything, we have any type of solar panels. And, maybe the cost, how long would it take for us to reduce the cost of the expensive panels, but is it worth looking at?
The panels are certainly less expensive than they were several years ago. Back in 2013, we looked extensively at solar, and AEP would not offer us any incentive to do it. So we decided not to. And so actually, I wish Todd was here because he's been looking into it. He can tell you where he's at in the process. But we continue to look at that. We've had a lot of interest from community members and board members, obviously, to look at solar, and then it becomes an issue of where can we place them, because we need some pretty large solar fields. I mean, our average electric bill at Memorial, I believe, is $40,000 a month. During cooling season.
Yeah, I think I saw, was it Hvac, Jimtown, that put in quite a number of solar panels?
Goshen.
Or was it Notion?
Bago's doing one too.
Yeah, Bago, yeah. I was at a sporting event. I noticed that.
Yep. We definitely continue to look at it.
Thank you.
Jamie, I have another question for you.
I
Sorry.
almost got away.
You're about to. You probably know what the
After we spoke, we
question is.
made eye contact, so you had to know what was coming.
So, with the number of open police positions that you struggle with to find coverage, is there opportunity just to hire more security too, so that we have our own people that can build relationships with the students?
Yes, ideally that would be. So, in my opinion, I feel like we've kind of got a good thing going at the high school and the freshman division. I mean, obviously, I'd like to have 1 or 2 more at the freshman division, 2's not 1. But then I'd obviously like to look at expanding the program into the middle school level as well, so that when the kids come out of elementary school and they get into that middle school or that secondary type building, they know, okay, if I find one of the guys with the blue shirt on, that's a security guy, he can help me, and then it can kind of continues up the path as they get into high school, and then those security in the middle school can kind of start to teach those kids expectations and things of what's going to be needed when they get into the high school level.
Can you talk about some of the byproducts and stability that you found using security twos versus what was traditional, and how that's actually enlightening?
So, I mean, I said it earlier, I come from a law enforcement background. And unfortunately, when you bring law enforcement into school, a lot of times it's very reactive, which basically means we have a situation, we're going to react to it. They did do some proactivity where they're going out and talking to students and kind of getting knowing the students, but they didn't do a whole lot of that. With the security twos, even the security ones in place, we're able to be a lot more proactive. I'm not saying we don't have our issues or we don't have problems in some of the buildings, but we're able to stop a lot of those problems before they even occur, because the security two people are getting ahead of it,
Right.
and then getting administrators, social workers, guidance counselors involved to make sure that it's not a bigger issue.
And also relationships are being built with the
Yep.
students in the security one and security twos, and, that's a positive impact that a lot of times you won't have with police officers coming in. And it's nothing against law enforcement, they're not enough to build those relationships.
I have some guys, I have one guy that goes to some father-son breakfast and things with kids because he needs somebody to go with him. I've got other guys that, they come and work a basketball game, not because they necessarily don't have something to do better on a Friday night, but they promised this kid that they were going to be there.
Right.
They work a football game and they stand at a football game because they promised this kid that he would be there. And the kids kind of start to rely on them a little bit, kind of look at them more as like rather than just a security person or somebody who works at school, it's like that's my friend or that's my, a relative of mine that I've grown to trust and really,
And when they say stop or don't do that, they listen, because
Yeah.
there's that respect there now.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Sometimes you walk through school and you'll see kids starting to do something and they make eye contact with that one
Right.
security person, you just like, you need to
Well,
stop. Okay, they stop.
like your mother.
Yeah, they stop and they go do what they gotta do. And then, we've got some other ones. We have Thomas Davis, who's, you know, obviously a huge power lifter. He's starting to kind of get in with some of these kids in the powerlifting and kind of guiding them to, you know, what potentially could you do with what I do.
Right. Great things, great stuff.
So where are you at, just like on the beginning phase of trying to see how you can expand the process, or just like in the beginning?
Still in the beginning. So we just hired another security 2 person for the high school, and that gets into what we're gonna do in the summers and kind of do, you know, work on things in the summer. But with that person being added, I feel more comfortable now allowing somebody to maybe leave this campus and go to the middle school campuses. So, Matt Washington has been with me a very long time. He was my first security 2 I ever hired. He and I have had some conversations where he may go take an entire Monday, he's may go over to West Side for the day and see how things are going over there. Things going well, and then Tuesday we may send him over to North Side. He'll be more of a floater, and then also if we can have some issues at the freshman division that we need to have addressed or we help to have the extra bodies with, then we could send Matt Washington over as well. So we'd have that person that's more of a floater, and if that seems to really work, then we would talk about adding this to the middle school program and the freshman division program.
Thank you for your teamwork, guys. It's
Yep,
really
thank
been
you.
incredible to hear how you're all working together, and you've really created such a good bond together, and we appreciate you being here throughout the high school and the entire district.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a short break before we start the regular board meeting.
I don't think it is.
pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, I'm reading the Elkhart County today. Every student is known by name, challenged and supported by highly effective staff, and in partnership with the community will graduate career, college ready, and life ready. So if anybody wants to speak, there are white papers on the chairs. If you fill out the paper and give it to Dora, make sure you fill them out, and when you have 3 minutes to speak, you need to say your name and your connection to the district, and you'll have the opportunity at the end of the meeting. All right, moment of pride from exceptional learners.
Good evening. I am very excited to be here tonight, mostly because other people get some pretty serious accolades. You all got to hear probably the salesman of the century or the salesperson of the century when Trish was here talking about coffee not too long ago. Indiana Council for Exceptional Children is the professional group for special education teachers nationally and internationally. And Indiana has our own state Indiana Council for Exceptional Children that feeds into the national. They give away and gave away 8 awards last week for people across the state. One of the few that actually is not targeted towards a special education teacher or administrator is Advocate of the Year. And it is with much excitement that I get to announce that Trish was identified as Advocate of the Year by the Indiana Council for Exceptional Children in the state of Indiana. And in true Trish fashion, I don't see her because she had so many other things to do tonight and she couldn't make it and take the accolades. But if we could just give her a quick round of applause. I'm going to ask my friends in the back of the room to come to the front of the room, please. In the second slide, you're going to see Patents. Patents is a state-funded Department of Education grant agency that provides assistive technology and assistive technology information to all of the school districts in the state of Indiana, all 300 or a little less than 300 of us. What Patents does for special education is amazing across the state. They give us and lend us devices that are too expensive probably for us to just try and then on our own, and then we try them and see whether they work. They give us assistance in working with folks who need devices or abilities to access curriculum who are visually impaired, hearing impaired, have some kind of need for new instructional materials. So you can see that Patents, what it stands for, but they give a Starfish Award away. And that Starfish, if you've ever heard the Starfish story about the child walking along the beach and throwing starfish back in when the beach is covered, and somebody walks up and says, what you're doing isn't going to matter. You can't save all of these starfish. And the kid picks one up and throws it back in the ocean and says, yeah, but I saved that one. So when we think about the Starfish Award, it really is somebody who goes above and beyond. And Julian Fish goes above and beyond. And I would love for you to just spend the 2 minutes and 8 seconds with us hearing this beautiful story.
Surprise! Oh my God! I don't even know what to say, but I do know what the Starfish Award is. Yeah.
Julene is deserving of the Patent Starfish Award because she's just extra all the time. She is somebody who goes above and beyond, not just for the kids she serves, but for the assistive technology and has some real knowledge about assistive technology even outside of the scope of her own job to assist everyone else.
Willow, the student that we are interviewing, she came in first grade. We did not have Braille writing on all the classroom doors, and Julene made sure that each classroom door, each hallway was labeled with the Braille label so that students who needed that could find their way throughout the school.
She's very dedicated. She goes above and beyond. She does a lot with the kids outside of school. She has an annual family picnic that she does for all of the blind and low vision families in the area, not just for Elkhart Community Schools kids. She invites students from South Bend, from Goshen.
So Julene, I have to share with you, she is so a person of doing
She actually made her outfit for tonight, and I'm not kidding. So I'm pretty impressed to be able to share with you the honor of the Starfish Award going to Julie Fitch. You want to say? That may be the quickest ever happened. If we can't get this, I will send it to you. They actually brought a team from Indianapolis. Actually, the team came from Cincinnati to film this event and put it out. So they hired folks professionally to be here and be excited. And I don't think you want to miss Dr. Tallheimer's speech either. So it's pretty awe-inspiring at the end when he thanks. So it's a good piece, and it's really important to understand that it comes from the heart and Julie's awesome work with kids in this district that aren't even assigned on her caseload. She is somebody to emulate and follow. So I appreciate your efforts very, very much.
And every year, Julene has a picnic for all of her kids that she pays for out of her own pocket.
And every year, Rocky donates the water for that.
So I got a call that said, Tony, I need you to dress up and actually wear a tie. And I said, what am I doing? She said, I have a tea for all the incoming students who are blind and low vision, and you will need
Oh my gosh! I don't even know what to say, but I do know what the Starfish Award is. Yeah.
Julene is deserving of the patent Starfish Award because she's just extra all the time. She is somebody who goes above and beyond, not just
that gets to do all the agendas and talking.
Yes, gets her name on all the
It gets her name on all the agendas, that's right. And then Lindsay Brander, Lindsay wave. The Council for Exceptional Children has an international assembly. And that group is made of 2 representatives from each state, 2 members from each province in Canada, 1 from DC and 2 from Puerto Rico. And that assembly needs to talk about and work with different parts of the Council for Exceptional Children and what we should be looking at in looking at special education across the country for teachers. That group is a very strong group in talking about best practice, inclusive practices, how we take care of kids. It's an amazing group. So we just were at the National CEC meeting, and Lindsay had her first representative assembly meeting and did the state of Indiana proud. So she was one of 2 people. The very interesting part will be the second representative assembly member is always the president. So it will be both Lindsay and Tracy at the same time as the next representative. Lizzie Cox, who could not be here tonight, is now the PR rep for the Northeastern Roundtable for the Council for Exceptional Children, for the Council for Special Education Administrators, and will just
start that spot. And then Lisa Ernsberger is a committee rep with the Indiana Association of the Gifted. I am very proud of how much our folks are stretching in the department to be able to talk about shape what's going to happen in the state of Indiana and nationally as policy. So kudos to all of them, and kudos to folks like Julene and folks like Trish who every day come out and take care of the kids in our district. So if we could give them a round of applause. I promised them they didn't have to speak unless you had a direct question for them. It looks like you all escaped.
Thank
Thank you very much.
Thank you, very proud of you guys, very proud that you represent us, thank you.
Okay, we can move towards the consent item.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Just recognizing the gift acceptance, so once again, our ECI building is receiving $25,000 from Hedrick Industries out of England, and then we are receiving, Woodland received 250 heavy-duty winter stock cans with the value amount of $2,500 from Steve,
Zalaric.
Zalaric, thank you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome.
So two amazing gifts yet again. So thank you.
Is there any other discussion? Okay, Dr. Time, a COVID update?
Oh, you need to vote.
Oh,
Vote on it.
Yes.
We have a motion and a second.
Give me the gavel. Give me the gavel. Let me throw it at him.
motion passes.
No.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Yeah, it gets easier.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now motion passes. Thanks, Rocky. You said before. Now we can move on to the code.
I don't want people to think I didn't do a good job training.
You did, that's why you did not train me very well.
In front of you are the running tally of the cases, and as we had spoken a couple weeks ago, we were very high coming out of the Christmas holidays, and as the Omicron variant has been there now, as you look at that last day of January and into the first part of February here, we're back to levels that we were back towards the end of November, and there has been relief on the staffing front as well. So.
I have a question. Is this 60, is that real, or is it some numbers were not?
When I went into the spreadsheet and I filtered the spreadsheet by student positive cases for that week, what's been entered on our tracking spreadsheet is 60.
Is there any other questions or discussion? Nope. Hey, Doug Thorne.
Good evening. In the area of all business, we're bringing back for further board consideration a proposed revision to administrative regulation, KI, which is the application used by our employees for fundraiser approval. Bringing this back to you after presenting it to you during the January 25th board meeting. Still working with the business office in terms of trying to locate a process that would allow for online payments for fundraisers. We have not yet reached the point where we're comfortable moving forward with that. For some odd reason, they would like to keep the state board of accounts happy. So we are focused on making sure that as we move towards that process of allowing for online payments, we do it in a manner that fully meets the audit requirements for the state board of accounts.
What is the position the State Board of Accounts on online funding?
I yield to my colleague, Mr. Scott, who made a great deal of attention to the state board of accounts.
As he should.
It's all about internal control.
Right.
And so we have, on a very limited basis, started to roll out some online payment acceptance. The most current one we're working on right now is for cosmetology. So those folks that come in and get their hair done at the Career Center, we're working on that. But so we just haven't finalized that. We've had a lot of things in the hopper, but we're cautiously moving forward. So
So, and this is like, if you're doing a fundraiser, with an elementary PTA,
Exactly.
you can't use a particular memo that would go directly into their checking account of their, that their treasurer would report back to you.
You would think that that technology would have the internal controls
Right.
already built into them.
Yeah, and have you looked at like, the machines that would go with our banking department, that would be directly with the cosmetology department?
And that's what we're, for example, that's what we're doing with cosmetology right now. Obviously, we've been doing this for a long time with WBPE and adult education, but expanding it out further and further than athletics.
I was gonna say athletic tickets.
Athletics is doing it with their ticket sales, but
Right.
not with athletic fundraisers yet at this point in time.
Okay.
And I know the high schools are using it for ticket sales for dances and those kinds of things.
I just know when it comes to fundraising, the easier you make it for people to contribute, the greater the fundraising.
Well, and we've added a feature where they can pay online for the textbooks.
Yeah.
So again, it's about tracking, because if you, the more variations that you get and trying to reconcile all that, make sure you put it in the right place, there's just components of it that we have to work through all the details.
And it's important to work through it. I'm just glad to know that you are.
Yeah.
So we're open to that, we certainly
Yeah.
recognize that there's that need, so we're getting.
Thank you.
On this point, then, tonight, I was just asking for some tweaks in the language to this particular.
Thank you. I warned them that these questions might come up. Yes.
So if we approve this.
No.
There's no
It's just administrative regulations doesn't require a vote. We'll continue to work, especially on the electronic payment issue, because I think everybody agrees that we need to reach that point. But we need to reach that point in a fashion that the guys who sign checks is comfortable.
Understand.
All right. In the area of new business, we do have some action items that I'd like to obtain your approval for. The first is a proposed resolution of the board that would authorize the use of benefit time for support staff, employees during inclement weather e-learning days, when they might not have available benefits for those particular days. And I think the board early last week for their consideration. A few of you have some suggested changes which have been incorporated into that. We are seeking your approval of this resolution this evening.
Is there a motion?
So move.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. Does that category include paraprofessionals?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and I will abstain from voting on that, even though I do support it.
I will be abstaining as well.
Well, there are a number of classifications of employees with various different assignments. 12-month employees have vacation benefits available to them, as well as other personal leave benefits available to them. There are some paraprofessionals who would be working on those days because they provide academic support to, for example, students in our exceptional learners program who need that support during those days. So there are a variety of employees who are not included in this. Our physical therapists, occupational therapists would still be working supporting IEPs. So not every support staff classification falls within the scope of this policy. Social workers would be continuing to work either from home or from the school in terms of working with parents, working with community organizations, et cetera.
Because you've already established that with that.
Right, yes.
Well, I think too, Doug, when you and I were, talking, that one of the things we talked about is because of technology and the way we're using technology now with professional development for these groups, instead of adding things at the end of the year, that this could be a potential policy update change, looking more broadly, and how on days like that, we could offer professional development for those staff.
We are actually, when you look at the scheduled e-learning days throughout the year, we've built in professional development for all of our support staff on those days. So they're receiving that professional development. Then, we also have the academy days at the end of the school year, and those relate back to those days that were canceled at the very beginning of the school year that are still in place. But without this policy, we just continue to add on days of professional development for our support staff. Then we're actually providing that TD throughout the year for them.
So that was really kind of the issue that we wanted to address by this resolution.
And once we vote on this, it goes back retroactive.
It would go back retroactive to the beginning of this month.
Okay, so that would take care of the discount.
That would take care of the days that occurred last week, yes. Great questions. And this does sunset at the end of the school year. My hope is that we can, as I begin the process of meeting with support staff, in the fall, that we can look at maybe developing some language within the policies related to those various groups, to address these particular issues there rather than by resolution.
Should be done, those in the school year off sooner, so we can prepare for what we have in the summer, would be the best school that we would have.
Absolutely, not only that, but when you take into consideration, for example, food service, many of our food service employees are working summer seating.
Correct.
So we've got to deal with those particular issues. Plus, we have a number of school year employees who have employment over the summer outside of the school setting, and we don't want to interfere with those issues as well. So all of those things are addressed by, this resolution.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much. I'm sure our staff will appreciate that. Any policy changes? The first one is 3421.01A. This is a professional staff contract and compensation plan for administrators. The only change really deals with our administrators, primarily building principals, who might not have a full 12-month contract, elementary principals, middle school principals who are off during a period of time during the summer break, and we are proposing an increase in the pay rate. And they are called to come into, attend a conference, interview prospective employees, work on curriculum, any of those types of issues. And of course, there might be other issues that might arise that require the superintendent's approval. Those days primarily are 5 days would be available for those people throughout the summer. Seeking approval for that change the policy, and all of these policies are passed in the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, the next one is 3421.04A. This is really, you'll see just the changes are on page 1. As I was reviewing this policy, I noticed that the language really was very clunky and not very clear and straightforward in paragraph 3A. So that's just really an editorial change to this policy. No change in terms of the level of benefits that are available for administrators. The approval of this policy is using that to waive second reading.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
The last policy, and then we'll be done with you for the evening, is proposed revisions to 34.1.04A. This is the professional staff benefit policy for administrators. And here we are asking to bring the personal leave policy for administrators in line with what was approved last fall for the Teachers Association, so that as administrators have more years of service, consecutive years of service with the school corporation, they'll be able to have additional personal business days up to a maximum of 5 for people who have been here for more than 20 years. With the approval of those changes this evening, and asking you to waive second reading.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second. Discussion?
This is, personal leave A.
Yes.
Yes.
No discussion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doug. Dr. Tonheimer?
The item I have for you this evening is that I had put in your packet draft language for the RFP for us to engage in a demographic enrollment and capacity services study. I'm presenting that to you for initial review and open for suggestions on edits or how to approach getting this into a final draft that you're all comfortable with for us to put out.
I think for me, one of the things that I would like to have included in it is some language that that enables us to understand what are the key factors
factors and drivers of enrollment in the school district. I think that's important, to understand, in the climate that we're in. Also to understand the impacts of school choice, whether it's students going to other traditional public schools, public charter schools, the choice scholarships, schooling on our district. When I was looking, I happened to come across the strategic plan, and one of the quality indicators of success was talking about educate, retain, and attract. So I think as we're talking about this RFP, being in that mindset and some of the things that we're trying to focus on and question as far as our enrollment, how we come across, talk about that, how we figure out, how who we want to target as far as recruiting to our school attract. And I think if we can get some of those things into this document, I think would be helpful. I also think being able to understand the migration. I know that there was a little bit of talk about migration in this, but I think to understand understand the migration within our district. I know we have families that live in the district and transfer within the district, kind of what that looks like, and also to understand migration in general with our community. While we have, as an example, we have a large amount of people that come into our community from St. Joe County, for example, but they live over there, they come here, so trying to figure out why don't they decide to live here and send their kids here? And so just trying to wrap our head around, trying to put as much into this document as we can that will help us to understand the ramifications of school choice, how that affects our school district, understand what influences and drives people and how they make their choices of where to attend school, and so that way it can help us make decisions for the school district as a whole, and how we look at things, how we plan for things with our buildings and that kind of thing. So those are a couple of things that I would suggest at this point. I don't know if anybody else has anything they want to chime in with.
Yeah, I'll kind of add to that. I haven't had an opportunity to give you any written, in which I will, since it's under first initial review. So I will give you something in writing. I think it's important in a project like this that we have to, we're trying to determine what the future looks like and where we're going. I think it's very important also during these types of decisions, we need to understand how we got where we are today historically and look at the trends. And so I think that would be a pertinent part of this RFP specifications to kind of analyze the enrollment trends going back, because we can't determine where we're going in the future if we don't understand how we got to where we are today. All right, so I think that would be part of it. Also in a project like this, I think it's vitally important that, we're looking at demographics, we're looking at enrollment, we're looking at financial data, and sometimes it gets lost. I want to make sure that we have a focus on educational and academic growth and educational and academic excellence throughout. I want to view this through those lenses at all times when we're looking at things, and not lose track of that when we're trying to determine the demographics, feasibility, and enrollment of this district in the future. And I will, give you some more detailed suggestions, but that's kind of my first blush and take at going through this. And in addition to what Ann said, I agree.
Yeah, I think my biggest concern, or hope, by a better word, is that we get this document in a sense that we can get as much information as we can, looking from our historical data plus our current to look to the future. So it puts us in a really good place to understand the economic dynamics of our area, so that this will help us make really good decisions and even strategic planning forward.
Correct.
Going forward.
Well, I think we need to make sure that we're looking at some of the projects that are happening in our area and how it's gonna affect our school system. Obviously, we have Amazon making an incredible investment in our area. Hopefully, that's gonna be attracting people to move here, and we want them to move into Elkhart Community Schools. There is also a large manufactured housing development that's gonna be happening with, I believe, planned for 400 units there. We have to think that a lot of those will be families with school-aged children. How is that gonna impact Oslo and Bristol and the schools on that side of town where that's gonna be happening and stuff? So we need to make sure that this is comprehensive. We don't wanna be doing this every other year or something. This is something that we should be able to look at and have a strategic plan for years in advance, based on the studies. We wanna make sure that we're taking in everything so that we're being good stewards of the money that's entrusted to us for this type of plan, to be able to use it to help advance our community, our county, but most importantly, the education of our students.
Is there two, like, we've got like school systems that match our numbers to the state, and maybe like some of them don't have the same demographics or financial backing that, you know, income that we would have inside of our district, or however we wanna, you know, word it, and they've moved around different buildings to kind of look at the most obtainable education. We look at that in comparison in RFP also, to kind of see how they shifted their buildings to match, you know, like what I was saying earlier, perhaps you take it to a K-5, a 6-7 academy, an 8-9. Do we look at how they have done that and what their educational growth has been by doing that instead of their community? I mean, would that match up with us?
Well, it would be a consideration that could be similar to the questions that I was raising just regarding reconfiguring the middle school. So we could expand potential things that we would want to throw out for consideration.
Right, and I keep running back to the education, regular education, thinking about when Phil left and he had that amazing science program that went into place, that could really filter into that like 7th, 8th grade, but then moved into 9th grade. You know, just thinking of how the rigor of our education goes and how it seamlessly moves grade to grade. I think we need to keep that in high consideration how we run our buildings. Because ultimately, the goal is every decision we make is the best education for our children.
Another consideration might be, we do have families that move from out of state, and we have a lot of families that move from Illinois, so that might be another indicator to add to the study.
Well, I think even to, you know, talking to realtors, I mean, they kind of have a sense of what's going on, you know, who's moving, where, why, what is their take, what are their perceptions, what are they hearing, what are they saying,
What are they promoting?
what are they promoting, exactly. So I think, you know, the more we talk about this, and I think the ideas kind of start coming. So I think the more we can get on a kind of piece of paper to talk about and then fine tune, so we can get the best, strongest document we can, I think is helpful.
Would this be something for a work session for the entire board, a work group for some people to get together? How would you like to approach revisiting this document?
I think a work session would be appropriate.
If you're willing to do, I mean, we could
add it to the
spend some time.
Yeah,
We've got the 24th kind of full, but the 25th was open in terms of topics, and
we generally go to like noon on the 25th, so
over the past couple of years have, yeah.
So we would have additional time if needed.
Yeah.
How long does it generally take for one of these to be completed once they have all of our wishes?
We've allowed, once the RFP would go out, we've allowed a month for them to return how they would do it, and then to actually do the study itself. I don't know, I've seen anywhere from 2 months to 3 to maybe even 4, depending.
So it may not even be ready then.
Obviously, the more comprehensive we make it, the longer it's gonna take.
Right.
Well, we have a lot of data ourselves, I mean, within the district and this public data that we give them and have them help us maybe interpret it in a way that would take some time.
Yeah.
After listening into, our discussions with Hawthorne, I think that the more that we could try to include them before we, I think we have to maybe, I'm not trying to create a big problem, but I think they need to be, the consideration of all of our schools should be considered on this study. And if the sooner the better, so if there is any, possibility that, there may be changes needed. I know that there's been the consideration of students and teachers and families to make whatever adjustments they need to make, but I also think that the community needs the transparency of the entire district's demographic plan, and I believe that's possible. I'd like to make sure they're included.
I agree with you. And we know everything that we need to do, and not just focus in on one building, one group, one section.
Just want to make sure we make
the right decision.
And in the right timing, and timing, I realize is idealistic to try to get things done in order for more people to have time to find assignments and whatnot, but I think more for transparency across our district and also for all of our families, I think they need to be included in this. If it means that we need to tap the brakes a bit, I think that might be wise.
So our target is morning of the 25th at our retreat work session to have more extensive conversation. I would say to maybe prepare for that if there is you all have access to this document to be able to go in and add language or those kind of things. So maybe propose, like Troy, if you have some specific language things,
right,
you can pop it right into the document that I shared with you as a Google Doc. And then if there are things for discussion, maybe we list those at the end just to know these are some things we want to talk about and how would that get inserted in and those kind of things. And then we can use that as the driver for our conversation on the 25th. Okay. That's all I needed at the moment.
Is there anybody from the audience that wanted to talk? Wow, this is the first in a long time. You gotta turn your papers in to door. I was gonna say.
Try to go into you guys' conversation, I don't want to interrupt it.
No, that's fine. Anytime during the meeting, you guys can bring those papers up, so make sure you know that. We really do want to hear from you.
Jim? State your name, your address, and your connection to the district.
Elkhart City, sorry. And I am a concerned citizen just over a certain topic that's been on my mind having this yesterday with Hawthorne. I know that's not what we're here for today. I saw on the agenda, the study. I did have a lot of concerns, which I was very glad that you guys addressed them while I was sitting down, just regarding the time, how long will it be, what kind of, study should be done. Is it just gonna be one school or all the schools? That was something I really wanted to address. I think it would be very beneficial to the community if more than one school was looked at and considered. Now I'm gonna try not to get too emotional, but I was not present at the Hawthorne hearing for, meeting yesterday. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to speak on that today or not.
Whatever you want to speak on, yeah.
Anything you would like to.
So, Good afternoon. My name is Jen, and like many of you, know about the Hawthorne situation. I am here to talk about why I'm against the school closing. I feel sad, angry, frustrated, confused, and anxious about the future, sorry. The reason I feel all these emotions is because I am a graduate of Hawthorne Elementary School. Attended for 7 years. Those were the best years of my childhood. You see, like many students that attended and currently attending, I came from a low-income household. Unfortunately, my parents struggled, but they always encouraged me to go to school and further my education. I remember my first year there, excited to be in a new place, making new friends, and most importantly, learning. I was always welcomed with a positive attitude from the staff, and never once did I feel like not belong. Regardless of what's going on at home, I can always count on having a great day at school. I would do my personal best at whatever I put my mind to, because that is what our principal, Mr. K, would say every morning over the PA system. And we are the proud of the South Side. The teachers that I had worked very hard around the clock to help us succeed. I remember the school, what it was originally like, and how over the years Mr. K made sure that it stayed up to date, even adding an additional wing, expanding the cafeteria, making a bigger library. Providing extracurricular activities is also another way that, in many ways, and others, escape from their troubled households. You see, Hawthorne is not just any old school to me. It is a place that shaped me and molded me into the person I am today. I graduated from Central with my Core 40 honors, went and attended FCC, finally graduated with my associate's in business. Had a family and settled down in Elkhart County because I believed in the power of the community. Please don't take that away from me. Believe it or not, a lot of friendships that I made when I was in Hawthorne, I still have to this very day. When I told them about the news that Hawthorne is at risk of closing its doors, and they expressed the same emotions that I am feeling today. Now, let's cut to the chase. My biggest fear of closing the school down is what's going to happen to this community. Again, like me, a lot of those students are from low-income families. This is not a solid solution on moving forward, on moving them to another school. There you will face the increased class sizes, transportation is an issue. On top of that, what we
Yeah,
already.
I'm sorry, you're 3 minutes.
I'm sorry.
Thank
Okay.
you so much,
Thank
we
you.
appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you guys know that you've got 3 minutes? And, we want to hear from you, so make sure you do that part and try to make it into 3 minutes. Okay. I know you were kind of doing an introduction at first, so that's why we gave you extra time.
No, that's perfectly fine. I'm so sorry.
I just want to thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Gabriella?
Can you push that mic down so we can hear from you? Okay, thank you so much.
My name is Gabriella. I'm a parent of a student, and I know I live in France, so I'm my sister, which is both. I'm concerned about closing of Hawthorne, and not necessarily of all of the memories and stuff that we had there, but because of the stress that it will create on another. I find the transportation, things like that, I know it's really hard, and I've spoken to your head of transportation earlier today. One of my concerns was 6.2 miles. I know personally, person that if you get to school, charging parents $80 per kid to get this person is licensed, this person is receiving his life, what if he gets hurt? Why don't we give them the option to maybe put the money towards? Okay, I know the shortage, I know, but we can come up with a solution with the community. Transportation, with transpo, I will be reached out, why can't we get something done myself? My concern is the safety of the children, how come I have always come up with these activities, safety for my children, for the children of the community.
Thank
you.
you so much. Dr. Tolman.
I wanted to voice appreciation to City Council for the resolution that they passed last evening in support of education in general and support of the teachers within the city for speaking out against with their resolution 1134, which is in its current state a pretty onerous bill that asks a lot of our educators in terms of what they would be asked to be reporting, the measures that would be in place to kind of monitor what they're teaching. And right now, I don't feel that the bill puts in place the protections that are needed for our staff, for their being able to avoid unduly wieldy litigation and issues. So I'm in conversations with Senator Rogers and appreciate the work that she and the committee are doing to try to have 1134 meet the requirements for transparency and the things that can be communicated to parents in a way that is not so burdensome for staff and that fits within, in many ways, things that we already do at the district. So I just wanted to thank the city for the support of education and what they did yesterday.
Does anyone have any comments?
Yes. I would like to recognize some of our fine student athletes. In case you are unaware, we had 5 wrestlers qualify for semi-state this week. Ethan Friedline, Cameron Friedline, Josh Corona, Nash Schubert, and Braden Jellison all are going to semi-state to represent Elkhart Community Schools. And we also have a very nice young lady who I've known since she was a little girl, or my daughter swam with her since they were 8 years old. Rachel Terrell qualified for the state championship in the 100 backstroke. And for those of you that are wondering, tonight is the sectional championship for girls basketball going on at Northside Gym. And the last text I got at halftime, Elkhart was up over the Kingsmen, 26-23. Go Lions!
I just want to make a comment about the meeting last night at Hawthorne. It was a well-attended meeting, so I just want to say thank you to all of the families and the parents and the community members that came out. It was an emotional meeting, but it was nice to see the passion for the people, for the school. Nice to see that so many people care about Elkhart Community Schools, and we just want to do right by you guys, make sure the study is comprehensive enough so that we make the right choices moving forward. And I just continue everybody to stay involved, keep your voices heard, and be a part of the process, because what you think and what you feel about this is important to us so that we move forward in the right direction.
This conversation is coming so very important, but on the side is Rocky's also. The Elkhart Area Career Center's culinary department has partnered with a small co-op called Nourish Produce, which I always get it wrong, but I feel like it's County Road 2. It's like if you're out at Bender Acres and you're heading towards Michigan and that funny road that shoots off to the left, that leads to 23, I think it's County Road 2, that there's a Nourish Produce there, and our culinary department is selling items this weekend, which they have for the past 2 weekends. They had king cakes and brownies and cookies, of which they've sold out every time, but they're selling again this weekend all of the Valentine wares, and it gives you an opportunity to see a small farm that's also going hand in hand with helping grow and soil production. Lydia and her staff out there that provide food to all of our community. But so if you're out and about Saturday, it's 10 to 2, I think, when it's usually open. Our culinary department, if you want to pick up some Valentine snacks that were made by our own culinary department.
Yeah, I'd like to add to the list of House Bills 1116 that has to do with referendums and maybe kind of like referendum sharing with schools of choice and stuff like that. That bill seems to be very troublesome to me. It passed out of the House onto the Senate. I don't know what's going to happen to it, but I'm not keen on that one at all. Also, kind of tying into what Rocky was saying, stuff like that, does anybody know who this gentleman is?
Anything to do with the Buffalo
Bills?
Well, we're blessed enough to have
Oh,
his,
yeah.
we're blessed enough, first of all, to have his sister as one of our amazing social workers.
Oh, yeah.
So let's
Okay.
do that. Yep.
All right,
We made
well,
that.
good. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and also his brother-in-law is one of our SRO officers. So
Yep.
he's
Okay.
a great addition, but we've got two gems right in our own.
Yeah.
Okay, and this ties into, you know, wrestling and athletics and,
Who is it? Joey Shane.
well, Joey Shane. Yeah, so I thought everybody knew that. But anyhow, my point being is that, you know, the, SRO officer and, also the social worker and this young fellow right here, these are some of the best marketing and advertising that we can do for this school corporation, and nobody knows it. And
Tell them the position.
oh, the position, oh, he's general manager of the New York Giants
But not,
and a graduate of Memorial High School. That's huge. And every year, you know, when we hand out diplomas and stuff like that, you know, I swear that 800 of those kids will reach the top of their career fields. And in these days, it seems like a very, very short time. You know, and I should know because my wife and I have 3 of them. And it's amazing what they've done in very, very short times with their careers. And that alumni contact of marketing for our school corporation and having a fellow like this come back and, inspirational speaking or motivational for the, the upperclassmen and stuff like that. That is, that's priceless. You can't buy that anywhere out there. And plus, these are our own kids, our own people, and I'd like to see more of that. And again, marketing, and also marketing the wrestling team. 5 kids going to semi-state. Did you say? Yeah. I mean, who knows that? Nobody. And I think we need to correct that, and that will help us with situations like Hawthorne. Because we want kids filling those elementary schools and stuff like that. And the more we do, the more we will get. Thank you.
Any other comments? Motion adjourned.
The problem is we could have kept him a little closer to home, the McCaskies, and Chicago Bears need help. So if we could have had him in the front office of the Bears, he